Powerful paradoxes that will change the way you think. Part 3. The wisdom paradox. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. I think a lot of people in their 20s or even the teens, I'm speaking for myself, I once upon a time was very much in that ego building phase of I know everything. And because I was the kid that grew up with internet, having access to everything online, back then, it's really much, I can research about it. I know this. You don't have to tell me. And I think it's funny because the more and more as you grow older, you start to realize that all these things that you claim to know, actually, you really don't know much. I think we all have a phase in our life, whether it's in school or among our friends or even when we first started out in our career. Maybe we come from very academic background with certain qualifications, the reputation, you're flashy, higher studies and recognition, and then you think that you know it all. I think we really cringe when we think of those moments that when we think we know everything, but actually we really don't. This is the paradox where they found that people who know a little would overclaim their competence. They will think that actually they know a lot, which is very funny, which is why it's a paradox. I think those people who are constantly not just doubt themselves negatively all the way, but the more they learn, the more they realize, wow, actually I need to unlearn to relearn, or maybe there's a new way of doing things, and they're just in general more curious about things. So if you are currently in the mindset of feeling like you know everything and everyone around you are stupid, and I think that's the time that you have to do a bit of reality self-assessment check, because often when your ego is too high, it is actually telling you that you are actually at the wrong place with your own judgment. You will notice too, like you can watch certain podcasts and people in interviews, people who are experts, they come with a sense of not just more silence as a whole, but they are a little bit more open to hearing people's perspective, even though they are subject matter expert. These are the people that I think truly have come to a point where they learn so much, or they're so competent to the point that they realize that there's actually a lot of things they don't know, which is why this paradox is so interesting. But this is beautifully explained by the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is actually a cognitive bias where people with low ability will overestimate their competence, while those people with the real expertise, they will underestimate themselves. In other words, when you know very little, you will think that you know a lot. But as you learn more, you realize that, wow, this topic that I think I'm great at, but there's actually a deeper part to it. There's more and more perspective about it that you don't really know. Your confidence kind of drops, and this is when you become a bit more open because you really want to hone in and be an expert in it. So therefore, it's like having a kind of lever that balances out on people who like know very little, but then the ego is very high. And then people who actually know a lot, they'll be like, ooh, because I've learned so much from it, there is so much more that I have to learn, that their confidence kind of drops. There's also a research by a psychologist where his name is Robert Keegan. He talks about mental complexity. I think it's explained in a very inspirational way. As we grow, we move from seeing the world in black and white. So this means that from you being certain to becoming very curious. So this shift makes you more wise rather than just smart. They are both completely different things. So sometimes when you are studying certain thing or trying to master a skill, and you know that to a certain point that you are competent in it, but then you also reach a stage where your confidence starts dropping, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are losing the skill. Sometimes it also means that you are expanding your perspective and your curiosity, and this is maybe the time that you are actually getting wiser with the things that you know. So the wisest people ask more than they tell. So sometimes I think don't be afraid to say I don't know. So question for you guys today, what is something you've unlearned that made you wise?